My name is Phil Bowles, professor of English. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Both of my parents grew up on farms in central Kentucky. Started out at Trevecca, that's where I met my wife. I studied English and music. I took a master's degree from Middle Tennessee State. Another master's essentially in linguistics. I was recruited by one of my professors to take a PhD in education. I was a high school English teacher for 9 years. A friend had preceded me to Point Loma, had suggested that I apply, so I did, and a couple years later, out of the blue, I got an invitation to come interview. I suppose crisis is the most obvious time when we're desperate, when we don't know where to turn. When we first came to Point Loma, my father-in-law was elderly. He was terminal. We had 2 young children. We had a house unsold in Tennessee for more than a year. It was during that period when we had to ask ourselves, did we do the right thing? Was this really a calling? And over and over through the years, we've looked back on that very difficult period and thought, it was a good thing. It was good to be in this sacred space, although it was difficult at the time and we had to just sort of hang in there. We've been affirmed over and over that we did the right thing. My colleague Daryl Falk and I co-founded this program called Program Quick Start, which was a precursor of the LEAP program of today. I saw a student at church just a few Sundays ago who came up and was reminiscing about Program Quick Start and how that had been influential in his life. I got an email out of the blue a few weeks ago from a Program Quick Start student, and she wanted to invite me to her graduation. She's becoming a doctor, a physician of osteopathy. I remember this young woman struggling when she came to us. She was working on developing some basic skills, but she had such fortitude and she had a desire to work in science and to work in medicine. Her good word to me was, "I've made it, I'm graduating." One of my TAs in the department a number of years ago went on to Baylor and left me a note on my door, but she said, "I wanted to let you know that I'm defending my dissertation in January," and she said, "I wanted to let you know that it was working for you and thinking about asking hard questions." It was when she filled several roles, working with students, working with her professor, when she could finally envision her doing the kind of work that we do here in the department. And she was thanking me for giving her an opportunity to sample some of those roles that she might not have sampled otherwise. We've been accepted to move into an intentional senior, strongly Christian community called Pilgrim Place. It's a place where you participate, there are projects, there are opportunities for service, for volunteerism. I hope to do more reading and more writing, so we'll be busy enough. Figure out what it is that God is calling you to do, and find out where the needs are, and then serve with passion.
I'm Coach Bill Westfall, head women's basketball coach. I grew up in Redondo Beach, California. Ended up going to USC on a basketball scholarship, got a teaching credential a 5th year. I knew I wanted to be a coach and ended up coaching high school, small college, a little bit with the San Diego Clippers when they were in San Diego. My best friend, John Block at USC, he went on and played in the NBA. And we always said that if we ever got coaching jobs, we'd like to coach together. He got the job here at Point Loma, and so I got hired as an assistant. I was in charge of the offense, and he was in charge of the defense. And so we did that for a couple years, and then it became kind of obvious that we were both head coaches, and it was hard to have 2 head coaches on the same court. And the girls came to me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of coaching women?" I said, "No." And they said, "Well, why don't you do so?" And 17 years later, I'm still here. as I think back, the ones that are the most special are the ones that are married now and have children and have brought them back, and I get to meet their kids. Kelsey Sousa wrote me a very nice letter, and it kind of refreshed my memory about something I did that had a major impact in her life. She was frustrated. She was a star in high school, and yet we had a good team in 2005, and she was a part of it, but she wasn't a starter. And so at Christmas, I think she went home and she quit. I called her and said, come on back, and about a week later she came back. And I just listened to her and her frustration, everything. I says, we want you back. You're welcome back. No penalty, no punishment, no, just for her well-being. I said, you can't quit. And she listened to me and came back. And she wrote me the nicest letter saying, Coach, that time you took me back with welcome arms, open arms, when I was really kind of being selfish. I graduated, I married, she kind of became a youth pastor and has these kids, and it was just amazing to see her. And I really had no idea that was that big of a defining moment in her life. And I don't think I've been a great father figure in anybody's life, but I think just the course of being who you are and of who God kind of is revealing himself to you, that has an influence. So my life has kind of been a journey. And here at Point Loma, it's kind of been a journey of discovering the grace of God and what that really means to me as a person, and then how that translates to my coaching, how that translates to my marriage, how that translates to my life. And there's been ups and downs in my journey, but I think it's been a consistent journey towards understanding what it means to be loved by God and under His grace. It's exciting and it's scary to retire, but I really want to make my life count as a Christian, as a grace-based person, as a grandpa of 9 children, as a husband, as a father of 3 daughters. So that's my main focus. I haven't gone beyond there. I've heard advice from a lot of people. They say, what do you do? What do you do? You know what most of them do? They go back to work. I say, I'm retired. I don't want to go back to work. Especially, I don't want to work for free. But just try to let it flow and see where the journey leads. Well, advice that I would give to students would be to live loved. God has loved us and blessed us with every spiritual blessing. And when we realize that, then we can live loved, and then we can pass that on to other people.
My name is Galen Yorba Gray. I'm professor of Spanish literature and language. Well, I was born at a very early age, as they say. I was born in Arizona, but spent most of my younger years in the border area, border states. I originally got a degree from Southern California College in Bible or religion, and was in ministry for a number of years. Ended up doing a second bachelor's in Spanish. Just decided I liked it. I thought I'll teach or something, you know, gotta have some way to put bread on the table for the kids. And I liked it enough in the literature, and I thought, why not just go for a master's? So did the master's, and I thought, heck, I'm in it now. Might as well go for the doctorate. So I just plowed on through. Actually, I had taught at another college, and I had actually lived in San Diego previously, and always wanted to come back here. So when the opportunity to come to Point Loma arose, we snapped it up. And one time, a couple of my students were doing a skit of Chespirito, and Chespirito was playing this doctor. And so he was a dentist, so the dentista was pulling out teeth, and this guy was coughing up chiclets in a plate, and it was an absolute bust up. So you never know what some of these kids are going to come with. Pretty creative stuff that keeps me laughing. The classroom's great too, but the out of classroom stuff is pretty special. Trips to Mexico, maybe with to the orphanage down there, Eurime. Anyway, we went quite a bit to that orphanage, and it's kind of a heart spot for us because we've been involved with HIV ministry, and that's what they do there. So going there and seeing the students just turn on, like, whoa, Spanish exists in a real world. It's not just something we study in the class and fret over verb conjugations and all that. It's something that is actually connected in the world and gives us a sense of global of a global heart, really, that can develop. I sense God in the midst of my work here most strongly during periods of loss in my life. Being here during my time at Point Loma, both my dad, my son, and my mom have passed. So those have been hard times, especially the passing of my son. But during that time, my colleagues and my students, I think especially, just really gathered around me and supported me, prayed for me, helped me to remember that there's other things other than just my sorrow. Helped me laugh sometimes, frankly, and they just did all kinds of stuff to make me know that I mattered and they cared, and it didn't matter if I was a professor or they were students. They just said, here's a guy we love whose heart's broken, so, and we're there for him. Retirement, as in retiring the old jalopy. Some reinvention, but being able to continue to use Spanish in ways that are fun and creative in ministry. Maybe becoming a Spanish-speaking docent at the Seattle Zoo. That just sounds like a riot to me. It looks like the Seattle area, possibly Everett, and work with a church plant up there. Probably pastored by one of my former students, which is also pretty amazing. Makes me feel very, very proud and very fulfilled to see, students that have prepared themselves and are taking their commitment to service and to God's work very seriously, and are just out there doing it. I would tell my students, I guess, to keep, if you have any inclination towards language study, just keep going with it. And remember that it doesn't stop in the classroom. That's where you get the nuts and bolts, but you gotta get out there and mix it up with native speakers and in the world where you can have this sense of service and partnership and solidarity with people that are a little different than you, but have a lot to share and give back to you.
My name is Nancy K. Murray, and I'm a professor of fashion and interiors. I grew up outside of Pittsburgh in what today would be probably considered almost rural. I went to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. I went on to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville for my Master's of Science and my PhD. And I started out at the University of Nevada in Reno, and then I went to Idaho State in Pocatello. Long story, but flyer crossed my desk at the right time that San Diego State was looking for somebody in my field. So San Diego seemed like the perfect place. By being here, I met Sandy Foster and Kay Wilder, who taught here. They were such welcoming spirits. At Point Loma, one of the things that's always struck me is the students are so friendly, and they're not, what's the least I can do? They're welcoming, they want to learn something, and they want to know how they can apply it to their faith. One of the things that's happened just in the last 5 years is that San Diego now has a fashion week. And that's a new thing. I mean, that used to be something you had to go to New York or Milan or Paris to see, and I've never had that opportunity for students to do that before I came here. And here, you get the right internship and it leads to a career, not just a job. Fantasy football has become really quite well known on our campus. I have been very successful at fantasy football, and I won the overall title one year. And you get to pick the color of the trophy. So see, the one that's black is for the Steelers. That was the year I got to pick what color it is. I think they were afraid I was going to pick pink. A favorite class of mine was catering might have been 10 years ago now, but basically the catering class, we learned to do a few things that are culinary, but mostly what it is putting on an event. And we just had so much fun putting together events. We did a baby shower. We had a Mardi Gras birthday party for me. Somebody from off campus who used to be on campus hired us to do a dinner party. We just had so much fun putting things together. Every once in a while, a student is in distress. Somehow it just speaks to you. And I think that's God's first step, to have you notice. And once you've noticed, then you have to figure out what would be the best way you can help them. Praying with them or offering to, take them to lunch or something that really is kind of very simple but makes the big difference for them that day, if nothing else. Well, I do already do volunteer work, but I plan to do more, and I'm hoping that I can do a little more at the zoo. I'm sure I'll get called on to do more at church. Everybody's always asking me when I'm going to retire. So I know that there are people just waiting to pounce on me. But number one for me is you really do need an education, and that reason you have to find within yourself how you can apply what you've learned here at PLNU and how you can apply what you've learned just in life. The other thing, you really need to listen. Not enough of us do that. You have talents that you were born with, that God granted you. What does He want you to do with them?
I'm Dr. Ken Martin and a professor of chemistry. I grew up in San Jose. That was the oldest of 6 children. My father cut meat in a grocery store and came to Pasadena College as sort of, probably a little bit loath to come to Southern California as a Northern California boy, but I got a state scholarship. And so I was the first person in my family to go to college. I came here expecting that I might teach high school math, got interested in chemistry. I kept that math major and that math interest, and so I graduated from Pasadena College with a double major in chemistry and mathematics. So I left thinking I would pursue a graduate degree and maybe someday come back and teach at Pasadena College. I went on from here to University of California, Davis to earn a master's degree, and then on to University of Wyoming for a short time before meeting a friend from graduate school. He was teaching at Wichita State University, just starting a teaching career, and I went there as a graduate student with him and moved on to New England, where I started my teaching career at Gordon College. We called our parents on the West Coast and said, we've got some good news. We've got a teaching job on the coast. The bad news is it's the wrong coast. So there I was really challenged to integrate faith and learning and faith and science. It became an interest developed there. Of course, my undergraduate education helped fuel that. So we felt pretty comfortable in New England as transplanted Californians, but then when Val Christensen eventually moved into the provost position here, that left a permanent opening. So it was probably one of the hardest choices of our lives to make that move back from where we were and had become comfortable to return to the West Coast. It was sort of that coming back to where I originally had thought I might have come in the first place. So it was death of a vision, birth of a vision sort of thing. I read a quote recently that talked about, I was a child of the 60s, so we were expected to do great things, the baby boomers. I think I realized along the way at one point that God doesn't call us to be famous, He just calls us to be faithful. I like to make things work. I like to feel like students are getting a good, solid education. Whether it's my car, repairing it. As a physical chemist, we oftentimes think we can do just about anything that needs to be done. If I do in-class demonstrations, I want to make sure those are working. If I'm working on the faculty governance system, which I've been involved in here, I want to make sure that works. Scientists are trained to be sort of seekers of truth, but at the same time challenge truth claims, expecting there to be evidence for it. Someone asked me the other day, how does it feel to be within 6 weeks of retirement? And I don't feel like I'm winding down. I feel like I'm sprinting to the end, and so what's beyond that end zone is not real clear. I'm going to be back doing a little bit of teaching here. I've told people I have about a decade of deferred projects at home that are going to, and of course, we want to do a little bit of traveling as well. What I would say is you have to trust God to be faithful. Listen to those who've gone ahead of you, that have had some experience with their faith, that can testify to God's faithfulness and goodness. My brother, who's a pastor, has told me more than once that God's never late, but He misses many opportunities to be early. God's will for you is there. It's not necessarily easy to discern. You need the confidence and guidance of those around you. and certainly a deep grounding in the scriptures to sustain you in tough times. So I'd say be a serious student of the Bible, be a serious student of nature, and love God with all your heart.